Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something a little different. Not a research paper this time, but personal letters.
Ooh, personal letters.
Yeah. And get this, these letters are from a rocket scientist who also happened to be a practicing occultist.
Oh, wow. Talk about a unique combination.
Yeah, right. We're talking about Jack Parsons, key figure at Caltech's Jet Propulsion Laboratory back in the 1940s. So this is the guy helping to make rocket propulsion a reality, and at the same time, he's deep into magic and mysticism.
Like, how deep are we talking?
Well, he was a devoted follower of Aleister Crowley's Thelema religion.
Thelema. Okay, gotta admit, I'm not totally up on my occult history.
Understandable. I had to do a little research myself.
So what's the deal with this Thelema thing?
It's a spiritual philosophy and religious movement, really.
Yeah.
Started in the early 1900s by Aleister Crowley, English occultist. One of their core principles is, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Do what thou wilt. Sounds kind of, I don't know, maybe a little edgy for the early 1900s. Yeah, it definitely raised some eyebrows back then. But at its heart, it emphasizes individual will and self-discovery. It draws from all sorts of mystical traditions, ancient Egyptian mythology, Eastern philosophies. It's really a blend of a lot of different things.
Okay, so you've got this rocket scientist trying to merge spiritual stuff with cutting-edge science. That's got to be a wild ride.
That's what we're here to find out. And the letters we're looking at, they're addressed to Marjorie Cameron. Parsons called her his elemental.
Elemental. Is that like some kind of magical term?
Exactly. In occult traditions, an elemental can refer to a spirit connected to one of the classical elements: earth, air, fire, or water.
Oh, I see. So it was more than just a regular relationship.
Right. It suggests Parsons saw Cameron as something really special, a deeper, possibly spiritual connection, maybe even a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms.
Now this is getting complex.
Yeah.
So basically our mission today is to figure out what was going on in this brilliant but clearly eccentric mind. Like, how did he connect science, magic, and, all the big questions about life?
Exactly. Where should we start?
Well, one thing that really stands out in these letters is Parsons acting as a teacher to Cameron in all things magic. He goes into incredible detail about practices like astral projection, creating talismans, even invoking gods and spirits.
Whoa, hold on. So it's not just like casual dabbling. He's got like a system?
He's got a system, all right, very methodical. He emphasizes preparation, doing these banishing rituals, avoiding interruptions. It's all very structured.
It's like he's writing a rocket science manual, but for magic.
Exactly. And you know what that tells me? Whether it's the lab or the occult, Parsons valued precision and discipline. It was all about approaching these things with a really rigorous mindset.
So he wasn't just separating science and magic. He was looking for connections between them.
That's what it looks like. I mean, the way he blends scientific language with occult terminology, it's like he's creating a whole new worldview where those two realms are interwoven.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. He describes astral projection as a journey to another realm, accessible through altered states of consciousness. But he stresses the need for focus and having a clear purpose. It's not just about zoning out, it's about exploration with intention.
Whoa, astral projection. I gotta admit, I'm a little lost here.
No worries. Think of it as a dimension beyond our normal perception, a realm of energy and consciousness. Some people believe you can access it through meditation, dreams, out-of-body experiences, stuff like that.
So Parsons is saying we can explore these other realms using techniques that, in a way, are kind of like scientific exploration.
That seems to be his idea, yeah.
Wow. And what about those gods and spirits he's trying to contact? What's he hoping to achieve with that?
Well, that takes us to one of the most interesting parts of Parsons' life, the Babylon working. Parsons believed that Babylon, a Thelemic goddess, was about to be, incarnated on Earth.
Hold on. He's trying to help a goddess enter our world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, whoa. And what actually happened?
It was this elaborate ritual, this Babylon working, aimed at bringing about this incarnation. But let's just say things didn't go exactly as planned. It's a really complex story.
Okay, maybe dabbling in the occult can have some side effects.
Yeah, you could say that. But, it's not all about the drama. Parsons' letters reveal a really deep philosophical side, too.
Oh, for sure. He grapples with all these big questions.
Yeah.
The limits of irrational thought, what is truth, how do we find meaning? It's heady stuff.
He seems to be suggesting there's more to reality than what we can see and measure.
Like he wasn't satisfied with just logic.
Not at all. He advocated for integrating intuition with reason, acknowledging that logic alone can't explain everything. He thought exploring the unconscious mind could lead to deeper truths.
So not just the mind, but the unconscious mind, too.
Right. And he even saw art and ritual as powerful tools for connecting with these hidden dimensions of reality.
So creativity as a pathway to understanding. I like that.
Me too. It's a beautiful concept.
And speaking of hidden truths, I'm curious about this concept of the facade that he talks about. What was that all about?
Parsons warned against using facades, or, like poses, as a way to protect ourselves or present a certain image.
Like a mask.
Exactly. He saw them as a defense mechanism that prevents us from connecting authentically with ourselves and others.
So basically he was saying that true growth requires vulnerability.
Spot on. He believed that to really understand and communicate with others, to even experience real pleasure, we have to drop the masks and be real. It's the path to a more fulfilling and connected existence.
That's a powerful idea, and probably more relevant today than ever.
I think so too. With all the pressure to present a perfect image online, it's so easy to hide behind those facades.
It really makes you think. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about Parsons, the scientist, the occultist, the philosopher. But where do we go from here?
Well, next time, we'll delve deeper into Parsons' ideas about self-discovery, those challenges of staying true to yourself, and how those ideas connect to the world we live in today.
Sounds fascinating. Can't wait to hear more. Yeah, it's easy to just put on that mask, especially these days with everyone trying to look perfect online. Did Parsons have anything to say about that kind of struggle, like staying true to yourself when everyone's pushing you to be something else?
Oh, absolutely. He wrote a lot about how tough it is to be an individual in a world that wants you to fit in, and how we convince ourselves to go along with things even when, deep down, we know it's not right for us.
It's that inner voice versus the outside world, right? Did Parsons think that was something we should try to avoid, that struggle?
Nope, not at all.
Oh.
He actually saw that struggle as the key to growth and self-discovery. He thought we should embrace the discomfort, the challenges that come with being true to ourselves. I mean, there's this one line he wrote, "To be used by life, we must be naked, and to be naked is to be hurt, but it is also to be alive."
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Like, to really live, you have to be vulnerable, even if it hurts.
Yeah, exactly. And that reminds me of that saying, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Parsons wasn't afraid to look at the shadow side of things, those difficult emotions.
He wasn't running from the darkness. He was confronting it.
Right. And he didn't just see it as a personal thing. He thought we need to confront the darkness, both within ourselves and in humanity as a whole. That's how we find wholeness, he believed.
That's a heavy thought. But we've been talking about magic mostly in a philosophical sense. Did Parsons actually, lay out how to do any of this stuff? Like how to astral project or talk to spirits?
He did. He gave some pretty detailed instructions, especially for astral projection. Preparation was key, he said. Protection, too. And having a really clear purpose in mind. It wasn't just about floating out of your body. It was about going to another realm with a specific goal.
It's like he's applying the scientific method to magic, right?
Yeah, kind of. He talked about observation, experimentation, recording what you experience. It was all about being systematic, even in these, mystical realms.
So he wasn't just trying to summon demons or cast spells or whatever. He was trying to understand the underlying mechanics of how it all worked, the principles, right?
Exactly. It was all about a deeper understanding of reality, using all the tools he had, science and magic.
Earlier, you mentioned that Parsons was drawn to deities like Kali and Jave, who are often depicted as, well, kind of terrifying. Why those gods specifically?
It is interesting, isn't it? He saw them as representing the duality in the universe and within ourselves. That struggle between light and shadow, creative and destructive, all that. Parsons thought that if we could confront and reconcile those opposites inside us, we could reach a higher level of understanding.
So it's like those darker aspects, those scary parts, we need to integrate them, not just ignore them to become whole.
That's a really great way to put it. And he didn't think these darker gods were, demanding blood sacrifices or anything. He saw those interpretations as just like human fear and violence projected onto something bigger.
Okay, so if it's not blood sacrifices, what did he think these deities wanted from us?
It was more about a shift in how we see things. A willingness to look beyond our limited human ideas of good and evil, to recognize that everything's connected.
It's like he's saying, get rid of those simple categories and look at the bigger picture.
Precisely. And he thought art could play a huge role in that. Art is a way to connect with deeper levels of consciousness, to communicate things that you can't just say with words.
Art as a bridge to those hidden truths, right?
Exactly. And he really encouraged Cameron to explore her own artistic side. He saw it as crucial for her to grow and discover who she really was. He actually wrote to her, "I am glad you are painting. It seems to be your material will."
He wasn't just her magical mentor, he was supporting her artistic journey, too.
Yeah. He saw a connection between art and ritual. He thought they both could be used to tap into these unseen forces to kind of influence reality.
So art itself is like a form of magic, in his view.
That's how it seems, creating and shaping things with the power of your imagination. And he wasn't afraid of exploring the darker, more challenging stuff through art.
It's like he's saying, don't shy away from the messy stuff. Dive into your deepest self and bring it out.
Absolutely. He believed that being totally honest, embracing every part of ourselves, the light and the shadow, that was the key to finding real truth and becoming whole.
And that brings us back to the idea of those facades, right? Hiding behind those masks is a way to avoid those difficult emotions.
He saw facades as these barriers that stop us from really connecting with each other, from seeing and understanding each other honestly.
Yeah, and that's such a relevant message today, right? When it's so easy to build up this perfect image online.
Absolutely. In a world full of curated images and fake personas, Parsons' message about being genuine is more important than ever.
So we've got Parsons' take on science, magic, self-discovery. But what about his relationship with Marjorie Cameron? He calls her his elemental, but what was it really like between them?
Well, their relationship, it seems like it had many layers. Teacher-student, creative collaborators, and maybe even a bit of romance, too.
Right.
He guided her in her magical practice and spiritual development, but at the same time, he was inspired by her unique perspective and her art.
It sounds like a really deep, complex connection. Was there any risk in that? I mean, exploring this unconventional relationship.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He actually warned her about the dangers involved in their, quote, magical relation. He said that messing up could lead to disaster for both of them.
Yikes. Sounds intense.
It was. They were really pushing the boundaries of what people considered normal spirituality.
Their story is a reminder that seeking truth and, self-realization, it's not always safe or easy.
Exactly. It takes courage and a willingness to, jump into the unknown. And you got to be ready to question everything and forge your own path, even if it's different from what everyone else is doing.
Parsons and Cameron definitely walk their own path. Okay, let's go back to Parsons' ideas about gods for a second. You mentioned he saw them as both barriers and gateways. Can you expand on that?
Sure. He said gods are barriers because they represent challenges, tests, initiations that we have to overcome to grow spiritually. But once you pass those tests, confront the challenges, he said they become gateways.
So you have to prove yourself before they'll let you through.
That's the idea. And once you do, they can guide you and help you navigate those complex dualities we talked about earlier.
And each god is like a whole universe unto itself, right? Like a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Exactly. A whole world of knowledge and experience contained within each deity. And remember, he wasn't afraid of those so-called terrible gods like Kali and Jave.
He wasn't picking and choosing the comfy ones.
Nope. He saw them as part of a balanced universe. They're not evil, but they can be destructive and transformative both at the same time.
He said the terrible gods, Huitzilopochtli, Kali, Baal, Moloch, and Jave, are intended to portray the diversity, the rightness of the appearance of evil, just as the good, mild gods portray and reconcile the other aspects.
That's a great quote. He's saying we have to embrace the whole spectrum of divine energy, the light and into the shadow, if we want to understand reality.
It's not about just choosing the parts we like, but understanding it all.
Right. He challenged those traditional views of the terrible gods demanding blood sacrifices. He thought that was just humans projecting their own fear and violence onto the divine.
So the real sacrifice isn't about blood or anything like that. It's about letting go of those limited perspectives, those judgments about good and evil. It's about seeing how everything is interconnected.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
He was calling for a huge shift in consciousness, a move beyond thinking in terms of duality. It's about a more complete understanding of the universe.
And the idea that we can all make that shift, right? It's not just for some special group of spiritual elites.
That's right. He believed that everyone has the potential for this expanded awareness.
He wrote, "The way to individual initiation has never been closed. You simply see the dross and the gold, and exchange the one for the other, and keep your counsel, save where it will do some good."
He was saying the truth is already there inside us. We just got to learn how to see it, separate the wisdom from the noise, and then use it wisely.
And trust our own intuition, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He encouraged Cameron to experiment, make mistakes, find her own path. He told her, magic is growth. You cannot force it.
Yeah.
It's a process of unfolding, of allowing yourself to change and grow in your own way and in your own time.
It's that inner journey, guided by your own inner compass. One of the things I keep thinking about is this idea of magic as a technology of consciousness. Not about manipulating the outside world, but about transforming ourselves.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. It fits perfectly with how Parsons approached magic. It's a way to access hidden knowledge, talk to forces beyond our normal senses, expand our awareness, connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And he saw science and magic as working together, right? Not separate things.
Absolutely. He actually wrote, "It is in the application of ingenious scientific method to transcendental ends that success lies. But this is the way of any great artist." He thought that science and magic both required discipline, a willingness to challenge the usual way of thinking.
And even encouraged Cameron to approach magic with the same kind of detail-oriented mindset as a scientist doing an experiment.
Yeah, like know what you want, reject what you don't, and keep careful track of what happens. He actually told her, for the sake of your own initiation, record. He understood how important observation, analysis, and reflection are, whether you're doing science or magic.
It's really wild how he brought those two worlds together. Makes you wonder what's possible when you combine different ways of knowing.
For sure. It shows how brilliant he was. He wasn't content staying in just one lane. He was a true polymath, always looking for knowledge and understanding.
And even when things went wrong, even with all the setbacks and tragedies, he still had that sense of wonder.
He never lost sight of the magic of existence.
Yeah, he wrote, "We are surrounded by and immersed in miracles. The only availing miracle is to open the eyes to a miraculous world." He thought that everyone could experience this if they just opened their hearts and minds.
It's a beautiful idea.
And it reminds us that even when things are tough, there's always hope, always the possibility of change and going beyond our limits.
Parsons really believed in sharing knowledge and wisdom. He saw it as a sacred duty, a way to help others wake up to their potential.
Like he was a guide, helping others on their own journeys.
And he definitely saw that potential in Cameron. He shared his knowledge and insights with her, hoping for a future where science and magic could work together.
Their story shows us that the search for truth and meaning, it's not something we do alone. We need each other.
We support and inspire each other along the way.
It's kind of wild how much you can learn from someone's personal letters. Like you get this direct window into their thoughts, their struggles.
Oh, absolutely. And in Parsons' case, it's like we're getting a front row seat to some really profound ideas. Like those deities he was talking about, the ones that are both barriers and gateways.
Yeah, that was fascinating. What did he actually say about that?
Well, in one letter he writes, "A god is a barrier. No unready person can pass. That is, truly, nay, no, a god or his temple."
So, you can't just waltz in unprepared.
Exactly. Of course, physical and mental contact is possible, but the spiritual, the essential part, must remain outside until one has partaken somewhat of the nature of the god.
So it's about, becoming worthy, transforming yourself before you can truly connect.
It seems that way, yeah. There's some level of understanding or initiation required.
Okay, so there's this threshold to cross, but what happens after that? What did he mean by a god being a gateway?
He goes on to say, "A god is a gateway. The conversation and knowledge of the god confers initiation, allows one to pass beyond all the opposites thereof."
So it's like once you've proven yourself, the god becomes this guide.
Right. Yeah, like a mentor, helping you navigate all those complex dualities we talked about earlier.
And he said each god is like a whole universe, right? Like a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Exactly. A whole world of knowledge and experience contained within each one. And, he wasn't afraid to explore those deities that a lot of people find, well, kind of scary. Like Kali or Jave.
He wasn't just sticking to the friendly ones.
Nope. He saw them as part of a balanced universe. They're not inherently evil, but they can be destructive and de-transformative.
Yeah, he actually wrote, "The terrible gods, Hitzabila, Kali, Baal, Moloch, and Jave, are intended to portray the diversity, the rightness of the appearance of evil, just as the good, mild gods portray and reconcile the other aspects." That's a mouthful.
Right. But what he's saying is we got to embrace it all. The light and the shadow, that's how we understand reality, not just by picking and choosing.
So the true sacrifice isn't about, blood or rituals. It's about letting go of those limited perspectives, those judgments about good and evil.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, how everything is connected.
Beautifully said. He was calling for a total shift in consciousness, moving beyond that duality to a more holistic view.
And he believed this wasn't just for a select few, He thought anyone could access this expanded awareness.
Yeah, he wrote, "The way to individual initiation has never been closed. You simply see the dross and the gold, and exchange the one for the other, and keep your counsel, save where it will do some good.
He's saying the truth is already there, within us. We just have to learn to recognize it, separate the wisdom from all the noise, and use it wisely.
And trust our own intuition.
Right. He urged Cameron to experiment, make mistakes, find her own way. Magic is growth. You cannot force it, he said. It's about unfolding, transforming, on your own terms and in your own time.
It's about that inner journey, guided by your own inner compass. Throughout this deep dive, I keep coming back to this idea of magic as a technology of consciousness. It's not about controlling the outside world, it's about transforming yourself from the inside out.
That's a brilliant insight, and it's exactly how Parsons saw it. Magic is a way to access hidden knowledge, communicate with forces beyond our normal senses, expand our awareness, connect with something bigger.
And he didn't separate magic from science. He saw them working together, complementing each other.
Totally. He wrote, "It is in the application of ingenious scientific method to transcendental ends that success lies, but this is the way of any great artist." He believed that both science and magic need discipline, rigor, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
He even told Cameron to approach magic with that same meticulousness as, like, a scientist running an experiment.
Yep. Know what you want, reject what you don't want, document everything. For the sake of your own initiation, record, he wrote. He understood the importance of observation, analysis, and reflection in both realms.
It's amazing how he brought those two worlds together. Makes you wonder what could be possible when you combine different ways of knowing.
It really does. And it shows his unique genius. He wasn't satisfied staying in one box. He was always searching for knowledge and understanding.
And even when things went wrong, even through all the setbacks and tragedies, he kept that sense of wonder.
He wrote, "We are surrounded by and immersed in miracles. The only availing miracle is to open the eyes to a miraculous world." He really believed that if we opened our hearts and minds, we could all see the magic in the world.
That's a beautiful thought. It reminds us that even when things are tough, there's always hope, always the possibility of change.
Parsons believed that sharing knowledge was really important, a sacred duty almost, a way to help others wake up to their own potential.
He saw himself as a guide, helping others on their own journey.
And he definitely saw that potential in Cameron. He shared everything with her, his knowledge, his vision for the future, hoping that science and magic could work together.
Their story shows us that searching for truth and meaning, it's not something we do alone. We need each other.
We support each other, we inspire each other. So what does it all mean? What have we learned from this deep dive into the mind of Jack Parsons?
Well, I think his letters give us a peek into a truly remarkable mind. Someone who was pushing the limits of science, magic, and self-discovery.
He makes us question everything we thought we knew about reality, explore those hidden parts of our consciousness, and see the potential for transformation in both science and magic.
He reminds us that the journey to truth is rarely straightforward. It's messy, full of surprises.
But it's a journey that can lead to incredible growth and, ultimately, freedom. I think the most important takeaway is that we all have that divine spark within us. We can all connect with something bigger than ourselves and live a life filled with meaning and wonder.
He challenges us to step into our own power, embrace our own paths, and create a world that reflects the beauty and magic we see within.
So here's a question for you to ponder. Could these seemingly opposite realms, science and magic, be more connected than we think? If Parsons' story has piqued your interest, I encourage you to learn more about his life and work. It's a journey that might challenge your beliefs, expand your horizons, and maybe even ignite a spark of magic within you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.